Good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out on a very typically excruciatingly busy Princeton Friday afternoon. This is what is very unique about this town, this university, that we bring incredibly remarkable personas to Princeton, and you often find that we have these competing programs and agendas and initiatives going on at the same time. But I'm really thrilled that today I am, by the way, my name is Chika Okeke Agolo. I'm Sherman Professor of Art and Archaeology and African American Studies here at Princeton in my 16th year as a professor. And I'm the director of the Africa World Initiative that is hosting today's event. And this is special for us, as with most things that are of consequence. They might start small, but eventually become legendary. And this is one of those I predict. The inaugural Africa Impact Lectures here at Princeton. I will introduce my colleague who will introduce the lecturer. But just a quick word about Africa World Initiative. It's in its second year here in Princeton. It's a new center, officially called Africa World Initiative, but it's established to become a center very soon. And it's a platform that the university is heavily invested in that will and is already serving as a platform unlike any before in this university for establishing, sustaining, and supporting impactful relationships with African states, African stakeholders in government and non-governmental realms across science, technology, innovation, the social sciences, and the humanities. And that is what makes Africa World Initiative completely unprecedented. Not just in our university, and I challenge us to look and see where else this is going on, either in the United States and elsewhere, where you have one entity that has the resources and the mandate and the will to bring the different realms of knowledge production, of policymaking, and socio-cultural and political experience of Africa and Africans in a way that you can have transdisciplinary relationships that can drive knowledge production on the African continent, but also to intervene where necessary in the political discourse and practice on the continent. And that's what recommended the Africa Impact Lectures. As some of us might know, last year we inaugurated the Africa World Lectures, and this year our second key marquee lecture series, the Africa Impact Lectures. And I would describe these lecture series as platforms for bringing significant voices that have direct experience and impact in the politics and life of Africa. To share with us some of their visions, some of their ideas, so that we can begin as a university community to calibrate our own understanding and possibly our engagement with the African continent. And so the Africa Impact Lectures describes what our intention is, which is to say that the speakers that we bring to Princeton for this series of lectures are individuals, people with impactful presence on the African continent. And as we would hear from my colleague shortly, our inaugural speaker is exemplary of the kinds of figures that we want to bring to Princeton to share with us their thoughts and ideas about their countries, but also the continent as we move into these futures that will be determined as much by technology as by human mind. And so to get us to our program today, I will first encourage every one of us to silence their phones as we go. And with that, I want to introduce my colleague, Professor Leonard Wanchekon, who is a Madison professor. So Leonard is one of our most distinguished professors here in Princeton and has been of tremendous impact on the African continent. And I'm proud to call him my colleague. He is a political economist and a hardcore economist at that, and you don't find distinguished figures like him that easily on the African continent. Princeton is happy and lucky to have him, and I am really thrilled to call him my friend. Professor Wanchekon, apart from being a tremendous scholar with several international accolades, is also an intellectual entrepreneur, unlike any that I have come across in the academy. He is the founder of a remarkable institution, the African School of Economics, based in Benin Republic, his home country, and very recently in Abuja in Nigeria. Professor Wanchekon has a vision to change how we do education on the African continent, and he's not theorizing it, which we like to do as scholars, but by showing how it could be done. And so in a sense, he is, by every measure, a scholar of deep impact on knowledge production and transaction on the African continent. And with that, I welcome Professor Wanchekon, who will introduce our speaker this evening. So you're welcome.
Thanks, Chika, for such a generous introduction. But before we get started, I would like to introduce His Excellency Martin Fayulu Madidi, who is going to be our speaker today. I realized during our conversation at lunch that we have so much in common. So in fact, we have a common friend, Simon Gongi. I hope he's watching from somewhere. And then we also were political activists in our youth. I quit politics, but he continued, to his credit. And I went to something slightly less exciting, but as important as academia. But also, more importantly, I realized that we are both fans of Vita Club of Kinshasa. So I tried to impress him a little bit with my knowledge of Vita Club, but so I hope he was impressed. So Mr. Fayulu Madidi is a major, prominent political leader and businessman from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So the pivotal year, I should say, of his biography is 2003. Before that, he was an executive at ExxonMobil, where he worked across Africa, Europe, and the US. And then after that, he moved to Congo, first to set up companies, to set up, to act as a business man, where he set up companies in agriculture, real estate, and also hospitality. But as importantly, he also elected to several offices in local and regional and parliamentary positions. So, but what is very remarkable of his career is the setting up of the main opposition party in Congo in 2009, which is this engagement for citizenship and development, which is the main opposition party in Congo. And under the banner of his party, he ran for office in 2018, you know, controversially lost, but in fact, according to many accounts, he did not lose the election. But what is, I think, very, very important, and this is why I agree entirely with the description of his career by my friend Chika, is the fact that he personifies what you can call the Congo paradox, you know, which is a place with extreme violence, and yet that creates leadership that peaceful, highly committed to the rule of law and democracy. You know, the first that what I can say personify this Congo paradox, I should call, was Patrice Lumumba, who is anything but what he was, you know, anything but the conditions that in which he was, he fought for independence and where he was killed. So what I hope this lecture will provide is an opportunity not only to celebrate his work, but also, more importantly, to support democratic renewal on the continent and Congo, because his work and his vision goes way beyond an elected office. Is actually the future of Africa, the future of democratic Africa that we are celebrating. So without further ado, so I leave the floor to him. And again, join me to welcome Mr. Martin Fayulu for this first lecture.
Thank you, Professor. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, Dr. Chika, thank you very much for inviting me here in Princeton. You and your team, I really thank you. To start with, I think it's important for us to watch a small video, 7 minutes, just to put us in context, Africa, Congo, where we come from, where we are now, and so we can discuss during our conversation the future of Africa and the future of Congo.
L'esclavage est un système ancien dans lequel des êtres humains, les esclaves, sont la propriété d'autres appelés maîtres.
Tous ces comptoirs commerciaux permettent aux Européens d'acheter des esclaves africains sur le littoral pour alimenter leurs colonies en Amérique. À travers le commerce triangulaire, ce sont plusieurs millions d'Africains qui sont déportés ou qui meurent en mer dans des conditions de transport inhumaines. Mais ce commerce de bois d'ébène, comme on l'appelait à l'époque pour atténuer l'horreur de la chose, cesse au cours du 19e siècle.
Les esclaves noirs constituent au moins 80% de la population des colonies face aux blancs, riches planteurs, propriétaires de terres immenses pour la plupart.
La colonisation de l'Afrique par l'Occident est un long processus. Depuis le XVe siècle, les Européens installent des comptoirs commerciaux dans les zones côtières ou fluviales. C'est à partir de ces comptoirs que la traite négrière s'organise. Chaque nation européenne voulant posséder son bout du continent africain.
En novembre 1884 s'ouvre la conférence de Berlin. À l'initiative du chancelier Otto von Bismarck, elle se déroule de novembre 1884 à février 1885. Sont conviées 14 nations. L'Allemagne, l'Autriche-Hongrie, la Belgique, le Danemark, l'Empire ottoman, l'Espagne, les États-Unis, la France, l'Italie, les Pays-Bas, le Portugal, le Royaume-Uni, la Suède-Norvège, qui à cette époque formait qu'un seul royaume, et enfin la Russie. Mais dans la liste, aucun pays n'est africain. À l'origine, la conférence de Berlin doit régler la question du Congo, mais les représentants des grandes puissances à la table vont en profiter pour aller plus loin.
En réalité, les frontières des territoires ont progressivement été tracées dans le cadre de négociations bi- ou multilatérales en dehors de la conférence de Berlin.
Les explorateurs laissent peu à peu la place aux militaires. Profitant des conséquences de la conférence de Berlin, le roi des Belges Léopold II fait du Congo sa propriété personnelle dès 1885. C'est le début d'un règne de violence pour les habitants de la région, entre confiscation de terres, mutilation, travail forcé ou encore épidémies organisées. Des horreurs qui vont perdurer jusqu'en 1908.
Le pouvoir tyrannique du propriétaire des lieux, Léopold II, le roi des Belges. Ceux qui refusent de collecter le latex et ceux qui ne livrent pas les quantités de caoutchouc toujours plus importantes exigées par le roi des Belges. Pour preuve d'une balle tirée. Comme celle de Yola, cette petite fille. Des soldats voulaient prouver qu'ils avaient utilisé une balle pour tuer un ouvrier. À côté d'elle, Mola, amputée parce que les soldats avaient serré trop fort ses liens. Quant à Ipongi, des soldats l'ont amputée pour punir son village qui n'avait pas atteint son quota de caoutchouc.
1960 est un symbole, mais 9 pays du continent retrouvent leur souveraineté bien avant cette date. La Tunisie et le Maroc s'affranchissent de la tutelle coloniale en 1956 et 1957, grâce à de puissantes mobilisations nationalistes. Mais le processus est lancé et les autres pays ouest-africains deviendront indépendants à partir de 1960. En tête, le Togo et la Fédération du Mali, incluant les futurs Sénégal et Mali. L'empire colonial belge, lui, prend fin de manière brutale. L'indépendance de la République démocratique du Congo est proclamée en 1960, un an après des émeutes à Léopoldville, la future Kinshasa, tandis que le Rwanda-Urundi est séparé en 2 pays, le Rwanda et le Burundi.
20 juin 1990, François Mitterrand prononce un discours sur la démocratisation de l'Afrique. À La Baule, station balnéaire de la côte de Bretagne, le président français François Mitterrand réunit les chefs d'État africains et les invite à développer la démocratie dans leur pays à l'image de l'Europe de l'Est. François Mitterrand était convaincu de pouvoir exporter la démocratie parlementaire à l'européenne en Afrique. Il propose donc un schéma fondé sur le système représentatif, des élections libres et le multipartisme.
Les responsabilités sont les plus grandes. En abordant les problèmes du Tchad, nous ne devons pas raisonner en plaignant et en défendant.
Le PCT n'accepte pas les mesures de provocation, d'intimidation.
Vous avez balayé totalement.
Un gigantesque déballage. La conférence nationale devait se tenir 15 jours. Elle a duré plus de 3 mois. 1200 participants, plus de 67 partis politiques, 134 associations. Pour diriger les débats, un ecclésiastique, Monseigneur Kombo.
Malgré les inondations, les violences et l'épidémie d'Ebola, plus de 39 millions d'électeurs étaient appelés à voter dimanche en République démocratique du Congo. Un scrutin décisif pour désigner notamment un successeur à Joseph Kabila, le président sortant.
Les données de la Cenco, auxquelles nous avons eu accès avec RFI et le Financial Times, elles, sont parlantes. Avec 62,8% des voix, le vainqueur serait Martin Fayulu.
Il semble bien que les résultats proclamés, M. Tshisekedi déclaré vainqueur, ne soient pas conformes aux résultats que l'on a pu constater. Et puis que la clarté soit faite sur ces résultats qui sont inverses à ceux que l'on imaginait. Parce que M. Fayulu était a priori le leader sortant.
La panique des réfugiés congolais sur fond d'affrontement entre les rebelles du M23 et les soldats de la République démocratique du Congo, à Goma.
Nous sommes à Tchanzu, non loin des frontières du Rwanda et de l'Ouganda, un point chaud des affrontements avec les rebelles du M23 cette semaine. Des combats qui se doublent d'une vive querelle avec le Rwanda, accusé une nouvelle fois par le Congo d'envoyer des soldats pour soutenir les rebelles.
La tenue nous a mis en confusion. Les motos nous ont...
Beaucoup d'espoir ici. Ils sont plusieurs milliers à avoir fui les affrontements entre l'armée congolaise, les groupes armés et le M23.
This is Congo. Congo has suffered a lot. And unfortunately, today we continue to suffer. The common thread run through this historical overview are, first of all, the absence of strong, legitimate institution and leader to foster resilience. The second, we have the recurring external interference in our affairs. Congo, since the independence, has not been administered well by its own people and freely. Today, what I want to do is to propose a path forward that addresses both these issues. The first fundamental issue Congo needs to address is the recurring lack of legitimacy of its leader. From Leopold rules until now, the absence of legitimate leadership has consistently led to chaos and instability, and illegitimacy inevitably bred resistance. Such resistance often gains local support, further complicating the situation. This has created dispersed poles of resistance, which have evolved into self-interest economic actors, making Congo landscape difficult for outsiders to understand. What began as resistance has often morphed into greed, with both local and foreign factors vying for control of strategic natural resources of Congo. Therefore, it is crucial to approach the conflict primarily from an economic perspective. While ethnic conflict and grievance may exist, the dominant driver remains economic. This brings us to responsibility as a nation and our internal shortcomings. As mentioned earlier, the lack of strong internal institution is a direct result of illegitimacy. Since Lumumba's assassination, Congo has not had democratically elected president. This had led to insurrections, wars, and and inability to govern effectively. Most importantly, it has resulted in a lack of accountability from those in power. Every leader since Mobutu coup of 1965 has used the highest office to enrich themselves and their families as quickly as possible. Until we change this state of affairs, progress will remain hypothetical. It's important to note that this diagnostic is widely understood. Our current constitution was introduced specifically to address the repeated crisis of legitimacy stemming from giving control to elected and illegitimate officials. So, now, what can we execute this prescription? We have seen that there is no legitimacy of leaders and the institution. You can remember that President Obama said in Ghana that Africa doesn't need strong leaders, but Africa needs strong institutions. We have, the first thing that we have to do is to reform some key institutions. We must focus on cleaning up the two organizations responsible for legitimating power, which are the Electoral Commission and the Constitutional Court. Historically, our Electoral Commission, despite its name, Independent National Electoral Commission, has never been truly independent. It has been the first battleground in every election cycle, and the fight over its control often dictates the outcome of elections. To achieve true independence, the Commission, according to many Congolese and our organization, should be placed under the oversight of our church, mainly Catholic Church and the Protestant, the only moral authority that has consistently resisted political pressure in Congo. The second thing is we have to reform the Constitutional Court. Similarly, the Constitutional Court has been co-opted by successive rulers to legitimize corrupt electoral outcomes. The appointment of impartial judges is essential to ensure the integrity of our judicial system. Congo currently parades as a democracy, but lacks its substance because our institutions have been hijacked. We must reclaim our democratic institutions while simultaneously addressing the issue of external interference. The importance of peace and reliable leadership, let me say this to conclude, because what I really want is to have a discussion with you, a conversation, to go through my vision. We have put the vision here in our manifesto, what we really want to do. But before that, let me conclude by discussing the need to peace and stability in the face of external interference. To illustrate, let me use the analogy of Wakanda from the movie Black Panther, you may know it. Through fictional, Wakanda represents what Congo could be, a nation rich in resources like our cobalt, uranium, coltan, copper, and lithium, but able to defend itself against external threats. Wakanda's strength lies in its well-functioning internal institutions, including its army and the cohesion of its people, allowing it to repel external aggressors. We need to be more like Wakanda. Then we need to clean up our house, re-establish control over our territory, and enhance our deterrence capability. Only then can we create lasting peace and stability. By addressing our internal weaknesses, and reclaiming our institution, we can lay the foundation for a stronger, more resilient Congo, capable of resisting both internal and external threats. A large part of the modern instability we see stem from a denial of democracy. Several polls from Afrobarometer, a leading poll organization, have shown that Africans yearn for democracy. They do so because they have experienced firsthand the limit of system without clear boundaries on the power of individuals. If democratic principles were respected in Africa, in Congo, we would not be facing endless coups and electoral fraud that foster instability, corruption, human rights violation, and widespread poverty. And let me be clear. There is a price the West is paying for turning a blind eye to the upholding of democratic values it once championed and promoted. The price closely correlates to democratic backsliding. We see it every day, be it with the migration crisis unfolding in the Northern Hemisphere. Billions of dollars wasted on ineffective peacekeeping mission, or the damaging radicalization of population with no hope, who turn to extremists with cheap promises of eternity in some hypothetical afterlife. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, it is of the utmost importance that we collectively protect the rule of law. The rule of law is very important for us to be part of the world. As I say, this world cannot be in peace if some countries like Congo, the second largest, biggest country in Africa, the third in population, if we continue to stay like this, you have seen the violence, you have seen the disturbance of the country. We cannot be part of the world. Congo has a lot of resources, mineral resources. We have water, we have people, but nobody can say that today Congo is benefiting to the world. Maybe some people are taking advantage of that, but the 120 millions of Congolese people, the 1.4 billion people in Africa, they are not taking advantage of that. Congo can give food for all Africa. Congo can take more Africans to come in Congo to work and to develop Africa than those people going outside. We have water. We have everything. But what we need is democratic principle. We need the elect guy that the country have, the people of Congo. They should know what the candidate is proposing, why we are electing. But you come at the end of the story like we had in 2018 and 2023, that you go to the election and people voted. At the end of the day, the guy, the ruler, say that guy who won is not the guy I want to be in power, and I have to make a deal with somebody else. And then the foreign countries, the Western country, accept the result. You say, yes, we are taking note. We know that the result is not that's the one that the Congolese people have made, but we took note. In 2023, we went to the election, but the election should last one day. And that election lasted 7 days. And with the voting machine everywhere, at the end of the day, the Western country said, yes, we have taken note. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me. I'm ready for your questions.
That's it? Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you. So again, thanks for such a positive, constructive, and hopeful message. As I said earlier during my introduction, I'm just amazed by the fact that in response to so much misery, so much violence, historically, that there are still individuals from Congo, prominent individuals, who want to deliver positive, constructive message that people still believe and strongly believe in democracy and the rule of law. You know, so nothing that you have said earlier call for some kind of revenge, some kind of tit to tat. It's about where do we go from here? How do we rebuild Congo in all this? So the question that I'm going to ask you first is, how do you explain, this is what I call earlier the Congo paradox. Why is it that political leaders like you, like Mulumba, exist? Like in conditions of hardships, hard hardships, you still believe that democracy is the way, rule of law is the way, and you would try to be constructive in trying to find institutions that we can put in place to move forward. So what is in Congolese culture, history, explain that there is still much hope, constructive thought out of everything you have described, everything you have shown.
Yeah, because simply the Congolese people want democracy. The Congolese people want the rule of law. The Congolese people want their country to be unified. The Congolese people, they really want the cohesion. They want to be together. Every Congolese, from the north to the south, from the east to the east, think that we are together, we are Congolese. That hope of being together, that sense of being together, that I really see it, and that gives us the force to continue, like Lumumba, as you said, to uplift Congo, so we can tomorrow be part of the world. But the other part of the question, but why Congo is still going down and down, is as you saw in the video, that since 1885, the Berlin Conference was for Congo. The first name was Congo Conference. That we should give parts of Congo to the Western countries. And the Congo was a kind of no man's land. And till today, people think that the Congo is no man's land, that anybody can go and take what he wants. That's why you are war. That's why you have today, for example, some countries like Rwanda, like Uganda, making threats to Congo, because it's not possible that a country with 13 million inhabitants, with something like $5 billion as annual budget, can destroy a country, a vast country like Congo with 120 million people, if they have not support from elsewhere.
Fantastic. So my follow-up question would be, you mentioned during your address the need to reform the judiciary, the Electoral Commission, the Supreme Court, because currently it's highly politicized. Now, can you maybe think of other type of political reforms that will kind of help rebuild, a democratic Congo? For instance, decentralization, because I heard somebody told me how surprising it is that a country that vast, that's diverse, is not a federal, it's not a federal system with a high degree of autonomy of the different regions. So can you also think of, like maybe the parliament and other type of political institution in the country? I mean, you were part of the parliament. Can you elaborate more on the kind of institutional reforms that, beside the judiciary, that the country will need to be what it's supposed to be, in terms of rule of law, democracy, and economic progress?
That's a good question, very good question, because that has been done. Congo, that vast country, we had 18 provinces, that 10 plus the Kinshasa, the capital, making 11 provinces. And in the new constitution that we had in 2005, we went to 26 provinces. So each province is like here, has its own government. It has its own local parliament. And then we have the national parliament. The power has gone through the people. Okay, we have done it, that reform. But the problem is the implementation. The implementation is lacking just because we are not in democracy. The implementation is lacking just because those parliamentary guys, they are being appointed. When we go to the election is just like a kind of something that to let the people do what they want. When we go to the election, those normally elected, they are not the one who will sit in the parliament. Okay, we have done many reforms in the country, but to implement those reforms, we need the biggest one, which is the president should be elected by the Congolese, and the one elected should govern.
Yeah, thank you. So one last question before we ask the colleagues to join in, is what would you like the world? You already told us what you need the world to know about Congo, about the past, about the future. But then what are you requesting from the world? Like, for instance, suppose that somebody like me, who from his young age have always seen himself as a Congolese. I told you during our conversation that when I was in high school, in northern Benin, there will be a football game going on in Kinshasa. And then on the right, you'll have Abon, my friend, the supporter of Vita Club. And then to the left, the supporter of Imana, It shows how Congo was really perceived around Africa as a place where every single African belonged to. So what do you think we should do? Besides the international pressure that we need to put for the war to end, beside, for instance, technical support that we can provide to democratic to pro-democracy leaders, and beside perhaps contribution to build up human capital in the country. Famously, it was told that in terms of human capital deficit at the end of the colonial rule, like Congo was really among the worst in terms of investment in education, particularly higher education, prior to the independence. So can you maybe give us a list of, give us an idea of things we would like the world to do, or pro-Congolese intellectuals or investors and whomever should do to support this movement, given the central role that Congo should and supposed to play in the future of a democratic and prosperous Africa?
Yeah, I will give you the answer because I asked that question to people in Goma. I went to Goma and I asked to my fellow Congolese, if I become president, what do you want me to do for you? And they told me, Mr. Fayulu, we don't need anything else than peace. Tell those people that they are having war against Congo, killing Congolese, to stop, because we know how to do everything. We can do what we can do. We are human beings and we have everything, and we can do what others are doing in the rest of the world. But please, give us peace. What we are asking. Then I've met with the Undersecretary of UN 2 weeks ago in Kinshasa, Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix. And I told him that, you gave us MONUSCO, UN mission for peace in Congo. But we want a combat mission, a mission that, like we had in 1964, the ONIC, Opération des Nations Unies au Congo. That's the troop who will fight with Congolese army. It's not a secret for you or for everybody that we don't have an army, because the power in Congo weakened the army. Why? We don't know. This is another story. We can make another discussion to discuss that. What we really want, the UN, the whole world, to help Congo to establish, the peace in Congo. We don't have peace today. And how can you put in the country which doesn't have peace a mission to maintain peace? We want a mission to establish peace. That's what we really want. If the countries want to help Congo, that mission, and then to have an army, a real army, well-trained, well-equipped, and everything. That's the first thing we want. Because today, as we are talking here, 115 localities of Congo, areas of Congo, have been with the hand of Rwanda, with the organization called M23. M stands for Movement of 23. We need to recover our areas.
Thank you very much. So this was fantastic. Anyway, so then we will start maybe from the left side.
Mr. Fayulu, thank you for your presentation. My name is Aro. I'm a predoctoral research specialist at the Political Science Department. And I have a question about ethnic diversity. How would you think ethnic diversity could affect trust? Trust that people have for each other, but also for the institutions, and how could that affect democracy building? And a second question I have is, what could the youth of Congo and of Africa in general could do? Would it be locally or for the diaspora abroad to contribute to democracy building in any ways we can? Thank you.
So I hear what you say about the reforms, but according to Wikipedia, Congo is still a unitary state. However, the ancient political philosophers have told us that you don't act against nature. And these things we call countries within these fake borders are not a natural endowment. So my fundamental question is, why is Congo one country? But before you say I'm a spokesperson for Paul Kagame, what I'm asking for basically is a new paradigm, a new African political philosophy whereby we think two things. On one hand, expansion, and not military expansion like Paul Kagame, but more of a political expansion into, let's say, a subcontinental regional government like SADC, whereby there's shared political and civil rights, common defense, internal, external. Anyone who wants to make trouble in Congo not only has to deal with Kinshasa, but you have to deal with Gaborone, Pretoria, etc. And the second one is most important. I think we've forgotten this, but true federalism, especially fiscal federalism that is based on our ethnic nationalities, our traditional and foundational societies, whereby we allow them some measure of self-determination, including having some level of control of the minerals under their feet, which is their natural endowment. And finally, if you allow me, this is not 1960. We now have the benefit of hindsight, which our forefathers like Patrice Lumumba, rest in peace, did not have. We have also attained some level of political maturity, whereby we don't have to continue these juvenile systems of government that these foreign belligerents left us. UK and Belgium are not unitary states by any source of imagination. So again, why is Congo, Nigeria, Kenya one country?
Okay, thank you.
Hi, yes, thank you for coming to speak with us today. So on the ethnic question, it is no secret that unity is a key to prosperity. My question revolves around language in that space of unity and how important language is for national unity, and within that, how Congo can use language to further national unity. I think there are three predominant, let's say, lingua francas that are wrestling with becoming the predominant lingua francas of Central and West Africa. Well, two, and one wrestling with becoming the lingua franca of the DRC alone. So you have Lingala in the DRC, you have Swahili across East and Central Africa, and you have Francais around West and Central Africa. Do you see a potential trend towards one of these specified languages becoming the dominant lingua franca in the DRC? Or is it more of a hybrid? And if so, do you think there should be precedence between those three? Particularly as French is, naturally an external language, Swahili comes from a very large Arabic substrate, and Lingala is more proximal to the DRC. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, to answer the first question, the ethnic group you talk about, Congo doesn't really has the problem of ethnicity like some other countries in Africa. I went to school in Paris, in France. One thing I saw, and it was amazing for me, when I met with other nationalities, African nationalities, and the people of the same countries, they will ask themselves, where are you from? But when you see Congolese, at that time we call ourselves Zaïre, and nobody will ask you, where are you from? Congo, I can tell you, yes, you still have a problem, the people being, even with your neighbors, you may have a problem. Okay, even in your own family, you still have, but the issue is really not an issue in Congo. The ethnicity is not an issue. But when you talk about ethnicity, and you put like Banyamulenge, if you have that in your mind, be in your mind that Banyamulenge is not ethnic group in Congo. In Congo, you talk about language. Every tribe has its native language. Okay? When you say that you are Muluba, you have a language called Luba. When they say you are Mukongo, you have a language. When you say my parent language is Mbala, there is a language is speaking, everybody can understand in that area. Everybody. You go to a Tervuren Museum in Belgium, you see all languages spoken in Congo. But Mulenge is a river somewhere in South Kivu. And okay, this is another story, but I just want to let you know there is no ethnic problem, real big problem in Congo that is making Congo, a difficult place to live. The diaspora can contribute, and for me, the first contribution is to be to make a diplomacy for Congo, to talk to people here, to let people understand what is happening in Congo, to tell them the reality in Congo, what's really Congo. Is not what they are telling them. I also think that our diaspora is very weak on that. But some diaspora, they told me that every time I go to the Capitol Hill, and okay, we are seeing many people here, other nationalities, but where are Congolese? Okay, I think the diaspora can play a big role on that. Congo is a unitary state, and you ask why Congo, Nigeria, still one country, each of them. Sorry? Congo, Nigeria, yeah. Why America is one country? Why China is one country? Why Russia is one country? Okay? I don't know if I got your question. You see, you mean that Congo should be separate? Or you are asking if Congo, Nigeria, and so on should be united? Sorry? Yeah, your question, why Congo is still one country?
Quickly. Yes, I'll try it very quick.
Yeah.
Congo other than one guy called Leopold,
yeah,
Congo would not exist. Congo would not be one country. So United States is one country because they went through a certain process and a certain history, and they said we're one country, but it's still a federal country. New Jersey has its own constitution, just like the United States of America has its own constitution. Princeton town has its own police. Congo, I'm sure Congo, like Nigeria, has only one police force. I step out this door, I counter 3, 4 different police forces. That's federalism.
Yeah, okay, I agree. But I understand. But France has one police. Congo was made with many small states coming together. Like here. This history is there. And those people, we have kings in Congo, and they agreed to be together, and they are together. But I agree with you, you are talking about unitary, but Congo can be a federal country. Yes. The Constitution of Congo, many writers, they say that the Constitution of Congo is a federalism. Yeah. Because we have a governor. If you go to, let's say, Katanga, okay, you go to, let's say, make it simple, you go to Congo Central, okay, you have a capital, which is Matadi, okay, you have a governor. He has a government of 10 people, okay, he have a local assembly with elected, quote unquote, elected members, okay, and he has a budget, okay, Iran is the place. What is the problem? Nigeria has 36 states, okay? But because those states are not working, that we can say that, okay, we split the country. Why you want to split them? First of all, in Congo, for example, let one day an elect guy run the country, then we see. We don't have an experience that if Lumumba was not killed, because nobody knows what will happen if Lumumba was there. But let us run a country. I have this year 18 issues, challenges in the Congo, okay? If today I get power in Congo, Congo will change. I said to everybody, I want to run Congo like I ran some country with the company called ExxonMobil. Let people try, and then you see, we don't have experience of that. Now, the other question for the language, you have Lingala, Swahili, and we have 4 what we call local languages that we have. This is Lingala, Swahili, Kiluba, and Kikongo. And then we have French for everybody. And we don't have an issue of that. Our old languages are very strong, and you go everywhere in Congo, people, you hear Lingala. 20 years, 30 years ago, you didn't have that. But you go to Kananga today, which is Luba's area, and people speak Lingala there like they speak in Kinshasa. You come to Kinshasa, people speak Swahili. You go to Lubumbashi, people speak Swahili. The language is really not an issue, and then we communicate in French. And I think in Africa, okay, you make like in Kenya, they have one language which is official, this is Swahili and English, but we have 4 plus French. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a question about sort of 2 main ideas that emerged in your remarks and how they relate to one another, what the interplay is between those 2 ideas. One is about building legitimacy in government through a clean electoral process and an effective constitutional court. Sort of very roughly, that's something that the Congolese people can do by themselves. But then there's the other issue that, especially in your spoken comments after the main talk surfaced, which is the importance of peace. And then also the idea of some kind of internationally supported peacekeeping force, bringing peace, especially to places around Goma. And my question really is about how these 2 ideas hang together in your assessment. In particular, whether you think that the process of building legitimacy can make progress while the sort of the conflict, the war, is ongoing, or whether you see these 2 sort of issues and problems as so deeply interconnected that you think it wouldn't be possible to make substantive progress towards democratic legitimacy and legitimacy in government while war continues.
Thank you for speaking here. I have two, I guess, slightly unrelated questions. So first, I'm wondering, because democracy was first developed in Europe and a lot of the ideas and institutions is imported to a country like Congo from Europe, which may not work very well with the tradition Congolese people have. And you were talking about how you can use, for example, the churches as sort of like the electoral commission. I'm wondering if there are other like traditional African political structures that could work well with democracy that Western style traditions is not working so well right now, and that can be replaced with traditional structures of Congolese people. And I think the second question is a question on peace. And I'm just wondering if like peaceful protests, peaceful movements, like for example, the civil rights movement in the United States could make a difference in a place like Congo instead of like armed resistance or armed revolutions in overthrowing and toppling a dictatorial regime. Thank you.
Yeah, because the last one, how
unclear. Yeah, just clarify quickly.
So like the last question is like whether peaceful protests and peaceful movements, sort of like the United States civil rights movement, could be effective in toppling a dictatorial regime or an illegitimate government in a place like Congo instead of having to rise up in revolution and armed insurgency.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Fayulu. Thank you for being here. I'm Janice Kinkalongo. I'm a senior here at Princeton, and I'm originally from the Congo. So my question for you was just, given the economic challenges within the Congo, and you mentioned that you studied abroad in Paris, what role do you think that education, specifically higher education, can play in developing the country economically, and how do you think students like me studying abroad can sort of contribute to that vision?
Go ahead. Quickly.
Thank you so much. I think I really enjoyed this presentation, and my question is, when you look at the Africa population, Africa constitutes about more than 1.3 billion population, and about 40% of that population make up the young people in the continent. Mm-hmm. And if you look at what currently happens in Africa today, based on your presentation, which is something that is very consistent in so many countries, especially in West Africa and also Central Africa, when it comes to election practices that involve vote buying, violence, and other, election malpractices, which have consistently been reported by international observers and other civil society organizations in the continent. So my question is, as an opposition in the country, in Congo, after every election, what do you do in terms of taking cumulatively taking steps to addressing the issue of election reforms to take care of those election malpractices and violence during election and also vote buying? What do you do as an opposition party in that regard? Secondly, how do you incorporate the young people within the grand scheme of things in terms of national orientation? Because when you look, like I said before, the young people constitute like a chunk of the population. And what do you do in terms of incorporating young people in your political activities by providing a national orientation to shift their consciousness into what it ought to be when it comes to election activities? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the first question is how the legitimacy, the request of legitimacy, election can progress while you have war going on in Congo. Yeah, but we should do something. That's why we are asking the help of the international community and to come with a peace or how do you call it? Yeah, peace mission, really to establish peace so the Congo can really have it's the election and have the stable institution. We are asking the UN nation. UN nation has a branch for elections. As they did in 2006, they brought that branch in Congo, and we had our first election with them. We're asking them to come again this time around, to sit down with Congolese, even with some African countries that they have demonstrated that they can run a good election there in Africa. So they can help us to have election. You cannot stay to have peace first and then to go for the election, because we don't have an army. I can tell you that our army is in bad shape. And the importance of peace is there, because nobody can work. We have minerals, we have resources, we have water, we have everything, we have people, but no foreign investor is coming in Congo. It's tough. It's really is not understandable. Now, the use of churches, if there is another organization, because in Congo, churches are very strong, mainly the Catholic Church is very strong, and most of Congolese, maybe 90%, they are Christians. It's easy for them, and then they are respected. But what we are asking today is if the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church, they can team up and facilitate the discussion among Congolese for national cohesion. So the country is attacked, and we have to forget now that's opposition, that the ruling party, we have to be together and to discuss and to see how to recover our integrity, our territory. This is the first question. The second question, how to stop the corruption, okay? To stop theft. Because one minister of Justice said that every year Congo is losing $15 billion going to the pocket of people. Okay, how to stop that and to take that money to invest in the army so we can go and do the election. The third thing is during that meeting I'm calling that the church should organize to see now, okay, sit together. Let us agree on reforms. Which reforms are necessary for us to go to transparent, impartial, and peaceful elections? This is what really we want. The economic challenge is there. I totally agree with you for the education. Then you see, in this manifesto, we say that for Congo, we have 4 prerequisites. The first one is the state of law. How can we have the rule of law in the Congo? The second one, how to have the integrity of our territory. The third, the national cohesion. And the fourth is the integrity in the governance, okay, good governance. These are the prerequisites. But then you come to the priority. The first priority is the education. Education is very important. And fortunately, you go to Congo today, you see those young between 15 to 35 years, they have not been educated, well educated. And it's very, very difficult. And we need people like you, please, tomorrow to come back to the country. But tomorrow, eh? Yeah, yeah, to come back to the country. I know the issue. That's why one of the issue is, the nationalities. Some of our young guys outside, they have 2 nationalities. Okay, that we have solved that issue by saying that yes, tomorrow we can have two nationalities except those 9 countries surrounding Congo. This is the way to address that issue. But education is very important, and I must say it again, we want you tomorrow in Congo. That's why I'm working hard to have a real Congo, a peaceful Congo. Now, okay, now the young people, we really think that Congo, the guy of my age in Congo, we are only 5%, okay? The median, âge médian in French.
Median age.
Median age in Congo is 19 years. 19 years, that means 19. 50% of Congolese, of 120 million people are under 19 and 50% above 19. You know, and you have many, and then they are not trained, they are not educated, they don't go to school. The current government has established what they call free education. And in the free education, you have in a small school with a young guy of age of 7 or 8, they are 150 in this classroom. And how can you teach them? You know, and every day we are having a problem because you don't have infrastructure, you don't have anything. Yet you heard that the Electoral Commission has spent $1.3 billion to run election, but half of that went to the pocket of people. You know, we really need the Congo, we need education, we need to form our people. And then the young guy, they are in the street. You know, our party, for example, our political party is mainly made with young people. But the problem or the issue is some people, they have been paid, some young, because they don't have job. They don't have revenue. And you see a guy in the ruling party, the guy in the government will take the money from the government, they're paying the people, you know, to be in the street and to fight against those who are demonstrating. This is the problem we have in Congo.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. Fayulu. My name is Mahiri.
Sorry, your name is?
Mahiri Mwita.
Mayele.
I heard Mayele, which is a typically Congolese last name, you know.
Oh.
But that's not what it is. Okay.
Mahiri is also Congolese.
Oh, is that right?
No, I come from Kenya, so, but I'm a student of post-coloniality. So I know one of the issues that beleaguers Congo is its wealth, the minerals, the vast amount of wealth that is under Congo's soil. And I believe that this mineral wealth is controlled by multinational companies. Do you think that these multinational companies that own mineral companies, mining companies, and trading companies in Congo have any role to play in the current situation in terms of political development or underdevelopment of the country? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Melusi. I come from Zimbabwe. I know you have talked a lot about more pressing issues, but maybe my question is less pressing. What will you do regarding the music and the dance in Congo? And because we grew up listening to Congolese music, and it was well loved in most parts of the country. So I'm wondering, do you have any cultural plan to awaken the giant, social cultural giant that Congo was in the 90s and going back?
My name is Mohamed Diallo. I'm originally from Guinea, and I'm a lawyer here in the US, and I operate an organization that does a lot of activities on the African continent where we help Congolese students, among the students that we help, gain access to admissions into US universities. They go for peace resolution programs and diplomacy programs. Now, my observation is that a lot of political leaders from the African continent when they travel abroad, we emphasize the importance of democracy, the rule of law a lot. And I seldom see them connecting with the corporate world, the private sector, to bring in investment in those countries, because we cannot sustain democracy when people don't have economic viability. So, and the West has that somewhat opportunity foundation to be able to tap into and connect companies that are here with local investors back in Africa or in the Congo in particular. So what do you do as a prospective, elected official in the Congo right now that you're waiting? And what do you do? Connect with companies operating in the public and the private sector to come about a strategic plan towards bringing investors in the Congo in different industries in alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Klaus Jäger, a visiting fellow, originally working in Germany on solar energy for more than 15 years. And my question is energy related, so I think decarbonizing global energy system is one of the most pressing issues to tackle climate change. And my question would be, how do you see the role of Western countries, Western researchers in supporting Congo in particular and African countries in general in decarbonizing the energy roles? So what can we do in the West to support you here?
Yeah, the role of multinational companies in Congo, for me, I think this is those transnational companies, I don't think that there's an issue from them, or the issue lies on them. If we organize ourselves, I think it will be easy for them to come and buy directly to Congo. But I think the real issue is the vision of the world, the strategy that some rulers in the Western country, they have. Because I worked for ExxonMobil. I was in Fairfax, Virginia, in the headquarters, and in the strategic department. And nobody said that, okay, we have to go and ruin Africa and do the malpractice. But we said that, okay, where we operate, we have to follow the law of the country, and we have to develop the country to be part of the development of the country. But I think that there is another strategy, can be part of another conversation. The fight between US and China, Russia, and that fight, or those fights, determined what is happening in Africa, and they want to split African country. They have, Sudan is already cut into two. Mali is having problem. Libya is nowhere. Congo, they want to cut Africa. So maybe Congo, let me say it frankly, maybe the US found that, okay, we cannot, compete with China in South South Congo for minerals, and we should separate Kivus so Rwanda can do that, and then we'll be part of that. I don't know. Just a question. You are a student. It can be part of your study. Okay? But I don't see the companies as company, but could be a world strategy or some country's strategy. We have, and then music. My friend Zimbabwe, I went to Harare. I know that as you like Franco, music is our part of us. Okay, we are singers, and we are proud of that. Okay, and we have to use that to educate people. Okay, we have to use that social, as you say, social culture. We want really music to be something can benefit Congo. we are not benefiting with our music, even in terms of money. Okay, you know that the Beatles, long time ago, England was getting a lot of foreign money because of their music. The music and dance is part of us. We are proud of that, and then we really, I'm discussing with those musicians so to really educate people. We have some new guys, the young guy, that are educating people, but the problem is when they issue the song, tomorrow they jail them. Many of them today, they have been jailed. If you go to Goma, I can give you some names, and I'm trying to find a way to get them out, but they have been jailed.
Because we are criticizing government?
Because they are criticizing the government. We have strong groups there doing a fantastic job in terms of educating the youth. Yeah, my friend from Guinea, I have a friend, Celo Dalen Diallo. Yeah, he sent me, thank you. I saw the reception was fantastic. Celo Dalen Diallo he experienced the same thing than me. He won the election, but they prevented him to run the country. And today, you have seen the military, they are ruling, and he's out of the country. Okay? The strategic plan for us, for the companies like here to connect and to come to our countries in Africa, in Congo, is only one strategy. The first thing is to have the rule of law. A country, a company want to know what is the judiciary system. If I have a problem tomorrow, my investment will be saved or not, okay? And today, I can tell you, since Mr. Tshisekedi is in power, no external company has come to Congo. But yet, people are going to Rwanda, okay? But some people are going to Rwanda to exploit our resources from Rwanda. We really, I think the thing is, we need the rule of law, and the people have to know that the government running the country is coming from people, and 5 years after, if they demonstrate the good job, they will come again. If not, they will go. And the law in the Constitution said that the president can, come back only one time, okay? Nobody can run the country more than 10 years. 5 + 5, that's it, you go. If we have the rule of law, I think tomorrow, because for the next question, the carbon. Congo has the country, we have everything. We are, they call it a solution country. And we're helping the world. But if we continue to be in war, and tomorrow our forest will be devastated, and then will not be a solution again. Okay?
Fantastic. So that was a fantastic session. So, leaving this, so we know Congo as the place for minerals, place for natural resources, is also the place for deep, strong democratic culture and optimism. And this is personified by Mr. Martin Fayulu, who is here. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's give a round of applause.
Thank you very much.